Hi everyone, welcome back. In this lesson, we will talk about the next type of matrix row operation, which is row multiplication. This sounds a little bit more complicated than the previous lesson, which was matrix row switching, but row multiplication is still a very simple row operation. Essentially, what you are doing with matrix row multiplication is you are taking any row, so any row in the matrix, and you are multiplying all of its entries by any constant value. So we can denote that as C times R sub X is R sub X. So what we are essentially saying is that we are multiplying each entry in this row by a constant value, C, in order to get this new row. And this new row just replaces the old row. So we would still call it R sub X. So let's first write out the definition of row multiplication. So that'll be when we multiply each entry, so every single entry in that matrix row. So when we multiply each entry by a constant value, thereby replacing the old entries, so the original entries in the row, with the new entries. So this sounds a little complicated, I'll be honest, but it's pretty straightforward, so we'll walk through an example. So example, oops. We're going to have some matrix, let's say some matrix A, and I'm just picking random values for this matrix, but let's say it is a 3 by 3 matrix. So let's open the matrix. Let's say it's 2, 5, 7, 1, 3, 2, 0, 1, 3. So this is our matrix A. There's random values that I picked. You can pretty much do whatever you want, whatever values you want, or whatever matrix you're given. And what we're doing is we're multiplying each entry in, let's say, row 2. So let's say we want to multiply row 2 by some constant value. So we have, this was originally what we were given. I'm actually going to write this in a different color so it's a little less confusing. But this is originally what we know about matrix row multiplication. And so what we're going to do for this matrix is we're going to multiply, let's say, row 2. We just arbitrarily picked row 2 by some constant value, let's say 2. So we're saying 2R sub 2. And so what we're going to do is we're going to take these values in row 2 and we're going to multiply them by 2, by the constant 2. So we're going to have an intermediate matrix. This is going to be the intermediate matrix. This is just for us to write out the steps. Eventually, you're not going to need this. You'll be able to do it in your head, but just for the purposes of this lesson, I'm going to write out the intermediate matrix. And so we have our matrix. We're not touching row 1, so that'll be the same. We're not touching row 3 either. That will also be the same. The only thing we're changing is row 2. And with row 2, we're multiplying each value, each entry in row 2 by the constant 2. So this will be 2 times 1. This will be 2 times 3. And this will be 2 times 2. And so this is our intermediate matrix. We can then simplify this by just simplifying the terms in the second row. So I'm going to rewrite this matrix. I'm going to rewrite row 1. That did not change. I'm going to rewrite row 3. That also did not change. In row 2, I'm going to write in, let's say, green. We know 2 times 1 is 2. We know 2 times 3 is 6. And we know 2 times 2 is 4. And so that is our new row 2. And we can use this technique for any matrix. We can use it for any constant. If you want to multiply really any row, you can totally do that. And so we will go through a second example. So say we are given the matrix F. This is matrix F. Let's say matrix F is a 2 by 2 matrix. So let's say it is 1, 7, 9, and 3. This is matrix F. We want to apply the following row operation. This row multiplication, say we want to say 3 row sub, 3 row sub 2. So now I want you to pause the video for a second and try and attempt this example by yourself. So hopefully you did that. Hopefully you were able to pause, try it on your own, but we're going to walk through this example as well. So we're going to do this intermediate matrix again. Again, for the purposes of this lesson, you don't have to do this if you find that you can do the row multiplication in your head, but if you need to write it out, no worries at all. So we know we are dealing with row 2, and so that's this row right here. So row 1 is not changing. So we can rewrite row 1 as usual. And we're going to apply this row multiplication to row 2. So we're going to multiply each entry in row 2 by the number 3, because that's our constant. And so that's our intermediate matrix. We will then simplify. Again, row 1 did not change, so that stays exactly the same. And row 2, 3 times 9 is 27. 3 times 3 is 9. So that is our new matrix, and that is our new row 2.